In this video we're going to continue with the die filer and try and complete the gear change. Today you get the full Monty. We're going to be working on the lathe, the vertical mill, the horizontal mill, the shaper, the drilling machine, though we might be running the CNC mill, which is probably a good thing. So to change from high to low gear, we need to make the selector move sideways. I've put a collar on this side which limits the movement to the right, and I've got a little collar to go on this side which will limit the movement to the left. So it'll work between the two collars. The keyway is a little bit long, so I need to do something to get that collar on in the right position. So I thought a good way to do that would be to use a rack and pinion. So I've made the rack to go on there. If my maths is right, if I step it back 1/64 of an inch or 0.4 of a millimetre, it should be in the right position. And I've also made the pinion, which would engage there. And I've also already put the hole in the body for the pinion to fit into, which is there. So I've already pre-drilled the rack to put a couple of bolts in. So to keep that in place, what I thought I would do is hot glue it in place, and that should keep it in place for gluing. So that's what we'll do. Give it a go anyway. Okay, so everything's cleaned down with alcohol, and I'm just going to put a sheet of hot glue on there. Place the rack. That looks pretty good. Just check the distance from the edge. It's 0.3. 0.5, 0.5, 0.3, 0.4, 0.4. Okay. Great. So we'll just quickly drill and tap those. Okay, that's the tap and drill size done, 2.5 millimeters. So I just need to open the brass out to 3mm. Actually I'm doing a 3.2, and the brass might grab this drill a bit, so we'll have to be careful. Okay, so now we've got the internal mechanism sorted out. We need to do the external. So I've made a start. So the idea is to have a handle which will be pinned to the shaft. We'll be able to rotate the handle so that it moves and changes the gear. So I'll put a radial slot in here probably. I've already turned a little handle on here. You might be able to see I've scribed out roughly what the shape will need to be, but we'll have to wait until we see what size slot we need. So the first thing to do is to drill this through for a securing bolt. So I'll be back in a moment. So I've drilled through the body just the tapping size of the thread, which is an M8, and I've machined up a stud. It'll just fit into there. So the flange can go on, screw into the flange, and locate with the hole. Okay, that's not bad. So we'll get the gear change mechanism set somewhere near the middle. That looks okay. Bit of marking blue. Scribe a line. Actually we can take that out. Okay, so I've shortened the stud. So now we can move the gear change to a high gear. Low gear, that's a low gear. Put on the lever, line up the centre line. Give it a tap. Move to the high gear. Line up the centre lines. Just check that. Okay, so the centre is 21.5, we'll say 22. So that would be 11mm, which actually coincides with that line there. So we're back to the long stud. Let's put that on, give it a try. That looks good. So we need to profile this plate. I've turned up a bit of bar just to put in there to mark that out. So we'll give that a scribe. I just guessed the width of this plate and it turns out it's actually spot on, so that was a bit of luck. I had expected this plate to be wider than needed. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. That's the way it will go. So I just need to profile it now. So I'll just go to my bandsaw and my linishing machine to rough that out. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, that's it roughed out. I think it looks a bit chunky actually. Could probably be slimmed down a bit. But there's plenty of time anyway. I'll finish that off a bit neater later on. I think now we can trim this down. Probably about there. Try that. So I'll head off to the bandsaw and the linisher and just rough that out. Back in a moment. That's not looking too bad. Okay, so I think we'll put a couple of screws in to hold that onto there. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, there we go. Put the screw in. Looks good. Okay, so now we just want to put the lever on and put a pin through. And I've got a nice taper pin here and a taper pin reamer, so that should be good. So I want to get some make seal clearance, so I'm just going to put a paper shim on there, like that. Put the lever on, get it pretty much horizontal, just by eye, clamp it down. Okay, so I've got the sliding block placed centrally, so I can't get in to measure it, but I've got a 4mm thick parallel. That's just got a little bit of clearance there and a little bit of clearance there. Okay, so I've got it on the drilling machine. I've got it squared up with the table. The centre of the spindle is roughly in the centre of the table, so everything's pretty much square. It doesn't have to be spot on. So I can move this sideways, keeping it square, and just eyeball the centre of the spindle, which I'd say is about there. Okay, so I can put a parallel on here. Okay, take the square out, so now I can bring it forward, and I'm just going to eyeball the centre. That looks about right. Put another parallel in there, just to keep it in place. Woo! Now for the taper reamer. It should be more than necessary. .1. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, I've just cleaned up a little bit with the compressed air, and we'll just see if that fits in. That fits in quite nice. Looks good. Get rid of the paper. I like it. Okay, in the next video we'll get that cleaned up and finished off.